Hey, I'm Doug, and on behalf of everyone at Eminence, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the third video in the Eminence IR video series. And this time around, we're checking out these IRs with the Kemper Profiler. At the top there, you heard my Dean from Hell utilizing the Jack Lightning profile in combination, as you saw on the lower right-hand side, like you'll see for all the demos, the name of the IR, which in that particular case was the CV75, which was shot by none other than Michael Britt. All right, so here's the deal. We're going to play through a range of different demos across different styles. And again, down in the lower right-hand side, you're always going to see what the name of the IR that I'm actually using is. Then kind of in between, I'll talk a little bit about what I was doing over in Rig Manager, so on and so forth. Now, here's the thing. At the very end of the video, I've got kind of a mini tutorial around how to get the IRs in there if you've never done that before, but most importantly, how not to end up with a giant laundry list of IRs that you're kind of poking through just kind of in a really unmusical way, as opposed to having a strategy around how to get the best experience out of these or any IRs. With that said, let's get to the next demo. The DV77 Fat is actually part of the Christian Cole metal IR pack, and obviously it's great for way more than just metal. So here's the other interesting thing about that. The DV77, in case you didn't know, is the Mick Thompson of Slipknot signature speaker. Again, great for way more than just metal. In terms of the profile there, that was one of my good buddy HW over at Tone Junkies profiles. That was an AC30, and I ganked a bunch of reverb on that. Really beautiful sound. Moving on. So that was another one of Christian's IRs. One of the great things that he's done in terms of workflow is the names of his files include descriptive words like classic deep swamp, swamp referring to the fact that it was an IR of a swamp thing. And the kind of the secret sauce here is that particular IR worked perfectly. And I kind of had a pretty good idea already when I went to utilize it with Michael Britt's capture of a Fender Pro Reverb, one of my favorite amps of all time. Arguably, it's got the best clean sound of any Fender amplifier out there. Just a great sounding amp, but you've got to use the right microphone to mic it up and bring the magic to life, or in this particular case, the right IR. And for me, that sounded and felt underneath the fingertips like butter. So that one I affectionately refer to as True Brit, in that the IR and the profile were both done by Michael Britt. So here's the thing, is that is the Governor, as the name implies, as part of the Red Coat series from Eminence, a nod to our friends on the other side of the pond, that classic British sound. And the profile was of a 69 50 watt plexi, that kind of classic Marshall cluck. So the thing is those amps, if you put them with the wrong speaker / IR, they can get bright in a really unpleasant way and not sit in the right place. And as you could probably tell as I was playing that, I was having a great old time. It was nice and loud, and it felt great, and it sounded great, as I was just kind of pulling out a nice rhythm track that if you added drums and bass would sit really well in a mix. So for that one, I moved back to Michael's profile of the Jack Lightning amplifier. Absolutely love the way that sounds, especially in combination with Michael's IR for the DV77. Workflow being the operative word here. Same profile, the Jack Lightning, but with slightly different EQ settings, a little bit more gain, different guitar, and then one of Christian's IRs. So here's the thing is most of us are usually gravitating certain sounds that we want to use over and over, but there are times we want to change up some of the nuances, again, like the guitar and the IR. All right, with that said, we're now going to talk about getting your IRs into Rig Manager and also making that process a manageable one. So we're going to break this section down into two parts. We're going to start off by talking about strategy, so you don't end up with a giant list of IRs, not only there, but there when you're on the gig, kind of like, oh, holy cow, how do I find the one that I want? You don't want to be there. Then we're going to talk about getting them loaded inside Rig Manager. Strategy. Christian's IRs, it's a great workflow. Basically, he chooses which microphones and which speaker or speakers get combined together. And again, he just uses descriptive language. It's a departure from how most IRs are presented, but the workflow is awesome. And Christian's tones are ridiculous. And he's a great guitar player, ridiculous. And producer engineer while we're at it. Michael's approach is a little bit more traditional, but equally effective. You end up with basically a list for each individual speaker of the different microphone choices. In a minute, I'm going to show you how to load those on there, but my suggestion would be to start with one IR. Great place to start, the DV77. Then start with one of your favorite amps, and then you basically load each one of the IRs, that is to say, each of the different microphone options, onto that profile in the cabinet there, and see what the different microphones sound like with an amp/profile you're already familiar with. And that way you kind of get used to experiencing what a multi-$1,000 mic locker actually sounds like in your profiler. In turn, if you kind of then started dumping all those IRs for all the different speakers that you would potentially collect, that list gets very long. And again, when you're on the gig, navigating through all of that stuff is a nightmare. So how do we make that list short? Well, initially just go through the list and get used to hearing the difference between all those different microphone choices. And then ultimately I would suggest reducing it down to 3. 57 off axis, U87, which is a Neumann U87, and then the 57 Royer, which is a combination of a Shure SM57 and a Royer 101. All right, why those 3? A 57 allows you to take maybe a guitar that can potentially be tubby or a sound that's just a little bit too big, make it a little bit smaller. Conversely, the U87 has got all this lovely body. If you got something like a Strat that you just need to make sound just a little bit bigger, it's a great way to go. And then ultimately my choice, and I would actually not load the 57 or the U87 on there because I want to keep that list short. My go-to is the combination of the 57 and the Royer, because for me that sounds most like the actual speaker in the room. HW over Tone Junkie feels exactly the same way, and that just allows you to keep that list nice and short. Now here's the thing, is having the option of all 3 of those IR choices is a great workflow, but ultimately when you end up with a huge collection of IRs, it's good to reduce it down as much as you can, potentially. All right, let's talk about Rig Manager. So once you've got Rig Manager open and connected to your Kemper, we're going to be paying attention to all rigs and all presets. So let's toggle, first of all presets open, and also then we're going to go to local library here. Now you'll see that I've already got an Eminence IRs folder created, but if you select local library and hit Control-click, at least on the laptop here, you can add a folder, or if you wanted to delete a folder, Control-click, again, allows you to delete that if you wanted to. All right, now basically once you've got that folder created, you just drag and drop your IRs into there. And if you noticed, here are the different IRs I was talking about a minute ago for the different microphone choices. And literally, you just drag them onto the cabinet slot and you just try them out and you see what you like. And then ultimately you find out which ones you don't want. You can kind of select them, and with a Control-click, you can delete any of the ones you don't want to keep on there. Now, a really important thing to keep in mind is when you go back up into your local library for your rigs, any of those changes that you have made potentially in there, don't forget to go down and save that. by storing your rig either in your profiler or your local library. On behalf of everyone at Eminence, thanks so much for checking out this video. For more information about Eminence IRs, please visit eminence-digital.com. And if by chance you haven't already subscribed to the channel, we'd like to invite you to do so. Don't forget to ring the bell so we can let you know when more videos are going to go online. And again, thanks so much for watching. Cheers.